They didn't even knock. One morning I looked over my farmland, the family land of 3 generations, and found bulldozers tearing into the earth like that was not a concern, like it belonged to no one. I stood in astonishment as construction crews went about their jobs with terrifying accuracy, laying foundations for something enormous. By Friday, there's a sign that says, Future Home of Hillside Pines HOA Cabins, Phase 1, 100 units. I near dropped my coffee. Okay, let me back up for a minute. So my name is Thomas Granger. I'm a retired judge. Not just any judge, mind you. I helped craft the easement and property use laws in our state 30 years ago. I'd spent years interpreting and enforcing land rights, never suspecting the day would come when I'd have to fight to preserve my own from something as arrogant and disconnected as an HOA. My farm takes up 140 acres just outside the city limits. It's serene, pristine, and has been in our family since my grandfather plowed the ground by hand. I was raised working this land with my father. After bench retirement, I took comfort in strolling these open fields. The breaking of the sun across the corn rows defined the way I found myself again behind the robe in the courtroom. Then the HOA came. I first noticed the surveyor flags. I assumed the county was doing some road work nearby. Then the trucks came, then the cabins. Not one call, not one mail, just construction workers laboring as if they were on a mission from God. When I went onto the property, a young man with a clipboard hardly even looked up. "You can't be here," he said. "I own this property," I told him calmly. He laughed. "Sir, Hillside Pines bought this piece of property 2 months ago. We have the deed." "No, you don't," I said. He looked up finally to meet my eyes, confused. I could see him realize. I wasn't some third-world farmer rolling in here to cause a scene. I was a guy who knew exactly what he was talking about. After a few minutes of give and take, they sent their attorney out to come meet me. His name was Brad, boyish, arrogant, attired as though he had never ventured outside his corner office. "Mr. Granger, this is just a misunderstanding. Our client purchased this land fair and square from the former owner." "There was no former owner," I said icily. "The land was never sold." He pulled out a map of bogus deed and a sales agreement, purported to be signed by someone named Marvin Ellison. That was a new name to me. Somebody had submitted counterfeit documents claiming to be the owner of my property and sold it to the HOA. I requested a copy of the deed from the county recorder's office. Sure enough, someone had filed a false transfer of title, and it made its way through the system somehow without anybody noticing. I was furious. This wasn't an accident. This was fraud, and the HOA had gone ahead without verifying anything. Most would have folded right there, but I'd been dancing around the quicksand of land litigation for 35 years. I wasn't prepared, I was armed. What they failed to understand was that in the 90s, I'd worked my way through a string of landmark cases that rewrote the state's entire approach to easement rights, eminent domain, and false transfers. I'd seen all the dirty tactics in the book, and now they were deploying them against me. So I called my old friend Rachel Bell, the state's top property attorney. "They messed with the wrong person," she stated, reading the records. "We're going to bury them." During the subsequent weeks, we assembled each record, deed, and tax statement, proving I'd had uninterrupted, unchallenged ownership. We followed the forged documents to a shady developer who'd done it before, purchasing homes with fake documents and selling them to HOAs or investors. Hillside Pines was meanwhile under construction. They held a champagne party and fake gold shovels. Even the mayor came. I sat and waited for my truck, teeth gritted. They'd already built frames for 30 cabins when the first cease and desist letter arrived. Brad dismissed it. There is no standing in law, so we sued them. I sued them for illegal trespassing in construction, not to mention damages, emotional distress, and fraudulent procurement. Rachel battled for an injunction of emergency to halt all construction. Within a week, we had it. The building stopped entirely. Now the battle really began. HOA board members started showing up at my house, suddenly eager to negotiate something. One woman, Donna, tried playing nice. "We can make this worthwhile for you," she ventured. "A large settlement, even naming one of the streets after you." I just sat there. "You rode over my family's history, and you think you can gloss over it by naming a road after me?" She sobbed all the way out of there. Brad had an entourage of half a dozen lawyers at the first hearing. I had Rachel and the truth. We brought forward original deeds 80 years old, handwritten documents from my grandfather. We proved that Marvin Ellison never owned anything near my property. We identified the fictitious title had been signed by a notary who had lost his license 5 years earlier. We unwove the entire network of corruption. The judge, my former student, sat in silence for quite a long time after hearing the arguments. And finally, he looked over his spectacles and inquired, "Mr. Granger, would you be so kind as to tell us why your name is on the Easement Reform Act of 1995? I could eat. I'm nodded since I wrote it, Your Honor. A hush descended in the courtroom. Attorneys for Hillside Pine realized at that point the enormity of their mistake. They hadn't just taken land, they'd taken land from the rulemaker. The judge awarded us full rights to ownership, declared the deed transfer null and void, and instructed the HOA 30 days to vacate and demolish all they had built. All the cabins, all stakes in the ground taken out. But it didn't end there. We pushed proceed with the fraud charges. The developer who sold the land is under investigation by the state attorney general. The HOA is being sued in a class action lawsuit by the cabin buyers who prepaid for homes that never existed legally. But none of that made me feel any better. I walked the property after the bulldozers were removed. The ground was ruined. Trees had been ripped out of the ground. The birds did not sing on the branches that did not exist anymore. It was not just about rights and law. It was about something more. Pain across generations, disrespect, erasure of heritage. I've planted a sapling where the cabin stood, oh, white oak, such as my grandfather used to play upon. I'll plant many more. It will take decades to restore what they destroyed, but it will be done. I erected a small notice at the entrance to my property. Nothing flashy, just 6 words printed on a wooden stake. This property is not for sale. A week has passed, and I have had a letter from one of the cabin buyers, a lady by the name of Carla. She has spent her life savings on one of the cabins to be informed it was all a scam. "I'm so sorry," she told me. "I didn't know. I wish I could take it back." I called her. We spoke for hours. She had 2 kids and had seen the cabin as their sanctuary from the city. She was upset, but gentle, honest. And so I did something that I never imagined. I invited her family over to visit the land. Not to have it, not to build upon it, but to remain there, to walk, to breathe, to understand what it was. And when her children played in the fields laughing, like I laughed as a child, I had a spark of peace. This land doesn't belong to developers or misguided corporations. It belongs to memory, to healing, to legacy. So to the HOA who thought that they could steal what did not belong to them, you didn't just decide to battle with a judge. You decided to battle with history, and history always wins. Do subscribe to my channel.